You're listening to 15 Minutes of Flame with Robert Phoenix.
All right. What's happening out there? Robert Phoenix, broadcasting to you live from Flyover. How do people like the new intro? It's kind of a rockin' intro, right? Kind of a dark, trancey, funk, jazz, rockin' intro. I'd like to thank my house band for putting that together. That was quite a session we had there. Man. And Megan Donovan with the voiceover. What's going on out there? It is, of course, the 24th of April, 2018. And I'm here to share with you what's happening today. And at the very least, my insights. I am your cup of enhanced coffee in the morning. And yes, I'm still drinking coffee. I hate to say it. I may be addicted. I may have to go into treatment for coffee. I think I should probably go to an ayahuasca clinic or an ibogaine clinic. Yes, with my experience with ibogaine back in the 90s in California, no less. One of the things that was really interesting after that experience was that I didn't have any desire to drink any coffee at all. I didn't have any desire to drink any coffee, any alcohol, anything. And there's a reason why, because ibogaine gets right into your brain and zaps that part of your brain that's addictive. And it's just like reset. Total reset. We talk about the economy having a reset. People have been talking about that for a long time. Oh, it's going to be a jubilee. We're going to have a reset. Well, what does a reset look like? And how does it feel? And, where do we go from there? And we're talking about the 2 or 3 days worth of darkness. Not 2 or 3 weeks now, I guess, right? Of darkness and a reset. What would that look like? How would that change your life? Would you feel as though you'd been absolved of everything that had happened in your past? Because at that point, everybody's pretty much starting off from zero, aren't they? Unless, of course, the people who are connected into the quantum computing, and quantum computing does exist, and they are playing with models of future reality, have already experienced and or predicted and or may even be managing the reset. Hi, how about that? How about that for a double, right? Maybe, it's all an absolutely great plan and a ruse to basically wipe everything out, and then everything comes back online. And the people that wiped everything out are the ones that are the most well-suited to come back online and run everything again. I mean, look, I have to play the double devil's advocate here. It's worth thinking about. I think there are rare moments in our lives where we do get resets. And it is really through the grace of God that those things do happen. And you get to begin your life kind of anew again. As we get older, it doesn't happen as often because we are at that point the recipient of the outcome of our own choices and decisions. And that doesn't mean that we can't change or we can't find a model of reality to be part of, adapt to, blend with. I think those things are possible, but those reset moments generally tend to come when we're not as fully online. Because when you're online, when you're theoretically conscious and aware, well, guess what happens? If you fuck up, that's on you, right? The universe says, hey, look, you should know better than that. Why should you get, the grace card or some kind of reprieve because you made a stupid choice or a stupid error? And every now and then, that can still be worked out. But it's a different kind of dynamic. It's a different kind of metaphysical algorithm, so to speak. So there is a lot going on in the world. Of course, they found Travis Reinking. Have you seen the look on this guy's face? Holy shit. Is there anybody home there? Oh my God. How would you... look, I think we all have our own version of Travis Reinking in our lives, right? We all have some version of, whether it's just the nature of the distorted reality that we're in and being hammered 24/7, or in some cases, people are actually targeted. And I know quite a few people that have been targeted. I went through a period in California where clearly I was targeted. And basically what happens, they'll take a small group of people and they will focus on those people and they will jam their frequencies and they will make their lives essentially a living hell. And then they will have data. They'll have metrics. Where do they get the data and the metrics from? Many different places. Emails, phone calls. At that time, it was Facebook, which was still, getting its feet underneath it and gaining some momentum, but still enough was there. But there are plenty of nodes to collect information on people. And I'll never forget when I was in California and I went through the heavy-duty vertigo, which hit me like a sledgehammer one night in my third eye as I was working on my blog back in Albany. I remember going to an acupuncturist who was one of the first acupuncturists in the West, really. And this guy was seasoned, to say the least. And I went there for treatment, and he said I was the sixth person that week that came in with the same symptoms. Well, this is interesting. So I went through that. I went through that period of time, and it was not a fun period of time. It was survival. It was really what it was. And, it was all... It's stuff. It's like, it's so cliche. The helicopters, all that stuff. It's like, you got to be kidding me. This is so cliche, but it's true. It's absolutely true. So, and look, tonight I'm going to be on Off Planet Radio with Randy and Emily. We're going to talk about stuff and get into things, and looking forward to that. But Emily is very open, and she talks about her time where she was targeted. It's not uncommon, okay? It's just not. And so we live in a society where there are these microaggressions and micro campaigns that are targeting people, and they're happening all the time, And then there's like the next level up where there's kind of this blanket targeting. It's like a shotgun blast. And you get caught in the shotgun blast. And so we all have a version of Travis Reinking within us to some degree or another. Maybe it's even a small version, a little fractal. And it's so small that it doesn't really impact us. But I'm telling you right now, that guy is symbolic of what's happening in the world with the rest of us, to some degree or another, right? And look at his face. He's got his mind wiped. He's got a blank. There's nobody home. Absolutely nobody home. He looks just like Nicholas Cruz. Nobody home. He looks just like Dylan Roof. Nobody home. It's your perfect zombie robot killer. And just strap an AR-15 to him and let him do his dirty magic. We have more momentum and more conflict, more shouting across the aisle from one another, more shouting across the channels from one another, the news channels. That's where we are right now. At the same time, there was a pretty significant van crash, and that took place in Ontario. So they got Travis Reinking. Let's just see what happens when there's a trial for this guy. There'll be no trial. We'll never hear a word out of Travis Reinking's mouth. He'll have some attorney represent him, and they'll say guilty, guilty, guilty. He pleads no contest, and then they'll whisk him off to some facility somewhere where he'll be drooling for the next 40 years on your tax dollars. So here's this other story, which is interesting. 10 dead after van strikes pedestrians in Toronto. Suspect identified. Let's see. 10 people were killed and 15 others were injured after a white rental van. It was a white van. Do you see that? White vans. I think white vans should be eliminated. After a white rental van mowed down pedestrians along a busy street in Toronto on Monday. The incident happened at 1:30 p.m. on Yonge Street, starting at Finch Avenue and ending near Shepherd Avenue, about 2 kilometers away, where a police officer arrested a male suspect without firing a single shot. Good job, police. Toronto Police Chief Mark Saunders identified the suspect as Alec Manassian of Richmond Hill, Ontario. Saunders told reporters at a press conference Monday that investigators were working hard to determine a motive and that Manassian was not known to Toronto police. There's nothing on our files, he said. There's nothing that we have on him right now. Manassian's neighbors told CTV's Peter Ackman that they would see him jogging, that he kept to himself. One former classmate said he struggled with mental illness. National security sources told CTV's Mercedes Stevens that mental health was the primary focus of the police investigation, that they had found no indication of radicalization. Saunders encouraged members of the public who may have information, blah, 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 blah. Witness Ali Shaker, who was driving southbound on Yonge Street. At the time of the incident, the van sped along the sidewalk, hitting at least one stroller and crumbling people down one by one. Carol Roberts, who witnessed the aftermath, said she saw a lot of people lying lifeless on the ground. It was just so many bodies. They've had some intense vehicular incidents in Canada. You know, they had the truck hit that hockey team, killing all those kids, killing 16 people. And now that trucking line is in serious trouble in terms of the licensing that it gives, it's been giving its drivers. So here we have another attack, okay? Now, what can we determine from this? And clearly it's an attack. Well, first of all, it is not motivated by anything else other than mental illness. Now, I'm not an Islamophobe, although I have some serious questions and issues around the flooding of the West with so-called refugees and the assimilation process, but I'm not an Islamophobe. I had a Muslim neighbor in Austin. He was a super nice kid. I mean, who knows? Maybe he was getting radicalized. I don't know. But on the surface, he was a really nice kid. And he even helped me want to carry something from my truck one day. Not too many people offered in that apartment complex, but he did. So, Manassian sounds to me like he's either Turkish or Armenian. And it's the mental health issue. So there's some real interesting fallout around this. The first off is if he's quote unquote not radicalized, and it is a mental health issue, which is shifting the modus operandi. We're staring down kind of this new program of socialization where we're having to deal with these quote unquote mental health issues. And as the volume gets turned up, as the chaos gets turned up, more and more people are going to have a difficult time hanging on with the program. Okay, so there are going to be people that are going to fall through the cracks. These are not the people that are already have fallen through the cracks, either due to opioid addiction or living on the streets because they lost their jobs or their family's been atomized, whatever. Okay, you'll just have more people kind of falling through the cracks because reality is going to become more and more difficult to navigate. The chaos is going to be very intense. I talked about this the other day with machine learning reversed on humans. Talked about this, I think, on the Sunday Night live stream. So, problem, mental health, mental illness. Reaction, holy shit, we've got to take care of this thing because there are too many deranged people out there. Solution, mental health testing for everyone. Medication for many. I mean, I think we can clearly see where this is going. And I don't think it's too far-fetched to project ourselves into a future where you'll have to take some kind of not only mental health test, number one, okay? I also think you'll probably have to take some kind of genetic test as well. Everything's getting lined up with the genetics. 23andMe, Ancestry.com, the players. And there is this normalization towards people accepting the fact that their genes will be under some kind of scrutiny. And oh boy, isn't it neat to know that you had an ancestor somewhere in North Africa. Now, under most circumstances, I'd be thrilled and delighted to find that stuff out. But I haven't done the 23andMe or Ancestry.com. But there's a normalization process taking place so that at some point, would it be that far-fetched for you to take a DNA test for your job or to have your 23andMe records unlocked so that your employer or potential employer can have a look at them and they can actually be examined? And not only that, but what is your mental health status? I mean, these are all some of the very interesting questions that are coming at us or scenarios that are coming at us from the event horizon. And if you are deemed to be aberrant, and aberrant will be defined by the prevailing social order. Whatever, and right now we're in an arm wrestling match between what that prevailing social order looks and feels like. This is what's going on. And I'll give you a case in point here in a second. It's a small one. But once the prevailing social order determines that these are the social norms, And if you are outside the bounds of the social norms, then you would be considered aberrant. And that you would need to be corrected on some level in order to be a quote unquote safe citizen or somebody who can participate in the social order without causing too much of a stir. If you want an extreme example, watch the movie Clockwork Orange with Malcolm McDowell, Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick nails everything. I mean, you look at Kubrick's films, and he nails pretty much everything. You can, if you studied his movies, you would find pretty much the skeleton keys of, what we're talking about and dealing with. Whether it's Eyes Wide Shut, whether it's Clockwork Orange, whether it's The Shining, whether it's Full Metal Jacket, it's all in there. You could watch 4 Kubrick movies over and over again, and you would get the picture. You would understand the prevailing social order and how people are dehumanized or programmed. Or in the case of Jack Nicholson, even possessed. Interesting stuff. So this is part of the problem, reaction, solution with this. Mental health problem, reaction, holy shit. This is terrible. This is awful. Solution, mental health testing for everybody. What about the van? This is the second van incident we've had in, a year now? Do you think the van piece is going unnoticed? No, of course not. Do you think anybody's going to be able to just rent a white van? Those days are going to be coming to an end here pretty soon. Unless, of course, we have the 2 to 3 weeks of utter total darkness and where we have a major reset. I'd be into that. I'd be totally into that. That'd be interesting. I'm waiting. Last time I saw Hillary Clinton, she was down there in Houston at the memorial for Barbara Bush, smiling, looking happy. There was Bill, there was Barack, there was Michelle. Yeah. I'm waiting. You got plenty of time to make those indictments happen. So is this what's going to happen? Are we going to have the 2 to 3 weeks of darkness? Then they're going to go in. They're going to snatch everybody up. That's part of the indictments, and they'll be gone, and the lights come back on, and we'll all look at each other. What happened? Where are they? Where did they go? Is that going to happen? Look, hey, if that's going to happen, I'm all for it. Bring it on. Absolutely bring it on. However, until I see, I keep hearing there's proof. With the QAnon stuff, yeah, sometimes there is proof. I mean, sometimes there are small things that, actually make some sense on some level. I've been following this stuff for a very, very long time. I mean, you go back to, the Nassara stuff and Sheldon Neidl and, the funds are going to be released. The funds are going to be released this week. These billions and billions of dollars that are tied up with this one old dude living in Switzerland, right? The funds are going to be released. And after a while, it just becomes like a caricature. Anyway, I'm not completely, utterly dissing the QAnon phenomena. We'll see. I'm a wait and see guy. And it's amazing. I mean, I just cruise YouTube and I look at all these channels. Like, if you got QAnon, if you're doing QAnon download breakdowns, you could get 10,000 views easy. Maybe I should just do that as an experiment. Start another YouTube channel and just start commenting on QAnon and wave an American flag with Donald Trump's picture where the stars are. I bet you I could get at least 3,000 to 4,000 views on that alone. Anyway, do you think they're going to let people just rent those vans? No. This is the second time it's happened. When you go to rent a van in the not so distant future, people rent vans. Vans are weapons. They're like tanks. You may Uber, you may ride a bike, but you can rent a van. Reaction, holy shit. Vans are dangerous. The solution. Well, having a biometric record of who's renting the van would be quite helpful. Having a small camera that is inserted into the van, and one, by the way, which you would not see. How about that? Yep. Probably wouldn't see it. That would be helpful too. So now you've got surveillance on the person from the purchase point or the point of purchase all the way to the drop-off point and even in between. And you think it'll stop with vans? No. Not at all. Rental cars will be next. Problem, reaction, solution. So we're in a period of heightened chaos now. And I wanted to talk about that. And I wanted to get into the Allison Mack and Keith Raniere stuff. Apparently, Allison Mack is... This is a QAnon thing, I have to say. I got to quote my source here. Apparently, she's singing like a bird. What does that mean? Well, there is some speculation that Keith Raniere and his, can I say this? And his pussy posse? Because it's all women, right? Pretty much. Keith Raniere and his pussy posse were involved in Pizzagate kind of stuff. Does it surprise you? It doesn't surprise me. The one thing I will say about where we are, I have not seen John Podesta much. John Podesta is keeping a pretty low profile. Pretty low profile. Probably smart to do that. Although I did see a weird picture with James Franco and Abramovich, the spear cooking gal, and James Franco was Adam, and he had a bunch of leaves across his crotch, and she was Eve. She had a big anaconda wrapped around her. It was like one of her kind of performance art pieces. James Franco's such a tool. He's that guy. You know he's compromised. That dude is compromised. He's somehow managed to kind of skate on some very salacious rumors, as it were. But we're going to be engaged with more chaos here. Oh, I wanted to talk about Allison Mack just a little bit. Yeah, so apparently she's spilling the beans on everybody and everything. Well, okay, well, this is great. And how long has it been since Anthony Weiner has been under scrutiny, went to trial, got convicted, and is now in prison? Right? I think, how long has that been? And of course, there's the laptop, the famous laptop that they called insurance, that had everything on it, and that apparently the NYPD had. And what about the Awan brothers and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the absolute and venal corruption that's gone on with the DNS, Democratic, DNC, my bad. DNS is a server issue. With the DNC. What's going on there? Not much. They've got plenty of dirt, and Debbie just keeps on trucking along, doing her thing. And the Awans are living in Pakistan, right? I don't know. I'm just pointing out certain things and certain threads that are just never getting completed. They're never getting completed. They're never getting those loose ends aren't getting tied up. Now maybe they'll all get tied up eventually, like one giant, massive tying up of these loose ends, and then we can move on, and the earth is a much happier place, and we're all singing Kumbaya, and America's great again. And I don't think that that's necessarily out of the question. So don't cast me in kind of a darkly cynical light. But I've been looking at this stuff for, since the late 80s, early 90s, like 89, 90, 91. 90 is when, I connected with Bill Cooper in Olympia, Washington, 1990. So do the math. This is how long I've been accruing information, putting things together, and, going down rabbit holes. And it's great. I'm really happy that other people are doing this now. I think this is the one thing about the QAnon material. There's more, but I think that this is a major piece with QAnon that I think is fantastic. That people are waking up. They are seeing a level of darkness that we've been living with on this planet for a very, very long time. And if people can awaken to that deeper and deeper and deeper without being herded into another false paradigm or false reality, hey, look, I'm all for it, okay? I am all for it. So all you QAnon decoders, you just keep doing your thing. Just keep making it happen. So the problem, reaction, solution on the Travis Reinking side, well, that's pretty easy to see, don't you think? Problem. The AR-14. The guy's got some mental health issues. Reaction. Never, never, never forget. Never forget. Never again. We're going to raise our voices. We're going to raise our fists. Until, of course, guns are completely outlawed. And by the way, you're probably going to have to take some mental health tests along the way. These things happen. That's the solution. Here we are. We are in the deep throes of the Hegelian dialectic. And remember, the people on the right or the left, they don't care. They don't give a shit. They're fine. They're fine either way, because at the end of the day, they think they're controlling the outcome. And what is the ultimate outcome? It's to herd you into a system of globalized control. And that much I think we can mostly agree upon. Now, the antidote to it all, of course, is to retain your humanity, which is an essential part of where we are. And it's very, very difficult. We're eating genetically modified foods. We're breathing modified air. We're drinking modified water. We're living in an electromagnetic wash of modified frequencies. So we're being tweaked at every single moment of our experience, which alters a lot of different things inside of who we are. Apparently, they just found a new strain of DNA. Where did that come from? So there are things that you can do. There are certain things that you can attend to with your body, with your mind, with your spirit. And this is not an easy time to be on the planet, but you're here and you signed up for it. I'm here, I signed up for it. We're here, we've signed up for it. And there are millions that are now awakening to the fact that this is what we signed up for. And I think it's important. The one thing I would be slightly concerned about with the QAnon stuff is that it's all out there, out there, out there. It's kind of like the virtual rapture in some ways, right? And that through that process, people don't understand or recognize their own personal responsibility to staying healthy and to make sure that they're not being altered or tweaked to the extent that they're no longer recognizable or they're acting out of some kind of reactive mindset or mind frame. In which case, you've got to figure out how do you do that? Well, of course, it's about eating really good food. And, I've gotten to this point now where I eat at home most of the time. And I think a lot of people that are, awake and aware, that's what they're doing. They could control what they eat. Go out to eat. I go to a restaurant and I'm like, I'm going to pay $25 to have something that I don't know where it came from. I don't know what went on in that kitchen. And maybe 2 out of the 3 items on that plate I could actually eat. And more people are waking up to that. More and more people are waking up to their water and how important their water supply is. We're starting to see now some really intense reactions from chemtrails. And there is a woman who's a presenter on Canadian TV. She has this terrible, terrible lung problem. And the doctor, this is a video, the doctor basically said, yeah, this is because of chemtrails. You've got things in your lungs that we can't identify. And that's a pretty heavy deal. And so we've got to be able to stay on top of that. Some people use air filters in their homes. I used to be a big runner. I used to run a lot. And when the chemtrails started to hit, guess what I did? I stopped running. I didn't want to run and breathe that stuff in. I mean, you're going to breathe it in anyway, but, running, getting your body excited, and all that, forget it. One of the things that you could do is you can also get into chelation. There's a number of things that help with that. Parsley, cilantro, basil, spirulina, chlorella, zeolite, iodine. Really good iodine is not too bad. These are all things that can help you chelate and get the heavy metals out of your system. I'm actually doing that right now. I'm doing a heavy metal cleanse. I found some stuff that I'm taking 2 to 3 times a day. We're in a survival mode here, to be honest with you, which is not always that fun. It's really kind of fun to just, not have to think about that stuff and just cruise and show up and I'm going to eat this, and it'll be fine. And, oh, look at the sky. It's nice and blue without any chemtrails. All that stuff is wonderful. But that's not really where we are. And I hope someday that we can reclaim our skies. Whether it's after a pole shift or whatever's going to happen. Bring it on. I want our old skies back. Wouldn't that be great? Remember the clouds that used to congregate and hang out? Now, I don't see a lot of those clouds now. I see different kinds of clouds. The cool thing about living in Texas, though, we get to see these big thunderheads. I love those, man. You just see them kind of like stack up, and you know it's coming. The storm is coming. That's what's coming. Is there anything else out there that I want to share with you today? There's always more. There's always more. Let's see what we got. Oh, let me just talk about this for a second. So I was on this website. It was on a Twitter feed yesterday. Man, the world is completely weird now. I just have to say. It is completely weird. So I went on to this Twitter feed. I don't know how popular it is. It's more popular than mine, which is not saying much. Although I did get a rush of popularity when I posted on David Hogg's Twitter feed and told him he should go to Chicago and take on handgun violence. Boy, did I get attacked for that. Holy smokes. You want to get popular on Twitter, you find the right person, you cross swords with them. Not always the best popularity. But I was on this Twitter feed called M-U-H Dernity, D-E-R-N-I-T-Y. And it was the weirdest Twitter feed. It's like, it's a bunch of soy boys in the fight against fascism. It's like very strange. And, it is really, pro-trans, and it's like strange. But what they said was interesting. They said that the guy that drove the van in Ontario was from Germany, and they were clapping, right? They were clapping and dancing in little tiny pirouettes of digital glee that this guy was from Germany. And oh, ha ha, look at what happened here. You have this German fellow who took out his aggression on fellow Northern Europeans. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, you fascist pricks, right? I mean, this was kind of the tone. And I thought to myself, that's a really bad kind of Schadenfreude, right? Chanting a little German there. I mean, there are people that got hurt, died, apparently, according to the news. I'm just reporting the news. And how can you take glee in something like that? I mean, this is the kind of world we're living in. And these people purport themselves to be what? Compassionate? Empathic? I'm not sure. But clearly they're on the path against fascism. You can see them there on their little keyboards going after fascists online. I mean, why don't you go out and fucking make something? Truth of the matter is the guy may have been from Germany, but he's clearly not German. But don't let the facts, hit you in the face as you're going through the revolving door. Okay, we got some comments here. What do we got? What's happening in the chat room? Let's see. Love that term, soy boys. Perfectly encapsulates the ethos. I agree, Maury. Best concise descriptor. German, Nazi, anti-Semitic equals evil is the underlying message. Yeah, it's true. Absolutely. Maury's all over it. But it's fascinating because, again, what we're seeing is this kind of wrist wrestling of the narrative. And really, facts don't matter anymore. Truth, in some ways, doesn't really matter anymore. And this is one of the things that we really have to pay attention to. And it's important to understand it, but it's also important to not abandon it. Because it'd be really easy to abandon it. Because you look at like this kid, right? Hamid Nassini, the Syrian boy, comes out and says, hey, look, this is what happened. It's an 11-year-old kid. This is what happened with the so-called gas attacks. You have a number of people coming forward. There's plenty of evidence that shows that Duma was a complete, staged, faked operation run by the White Helmets. And do you think anybody in the West, from a mass media perspective, actually cares? No, they don't. Right? We're at a point in time where truth is completely devalued. It's like a currency that's become so inflated, theoretically, that has no value anymore. And this is what I think is what drives people mad. Like I've known that the Clintons have been venal, corrupt, and murderous since the 90s. Here, let me reframe the last part, just so I can cover my ass. There are a lot of deaths that are associated with the Clinton family. And if you think I'm mistaken or lying or fudging the truth, just look up Clinton death list. You'll see what I'm talking about. I could spend another half hour just going through that list. That stuff's been on the table for a long time. A very long time. So here we are now. Hopefully it's getting to a point where enough people, through their conscious awareness, can actually drive what's taking place. Right? Drive what's taking place on another level. If there's anything really positive that comes out of the QAnon material, it is a large group of people who are being cracked open and through their conscious awareness are interpenetrating consensus reality and moving the needle. And that part I would completely, totally, and wholeheartedly support. And then we'll see what happens after that. Let's take a little. Where are we? Where are we? Where have we wound up to? Well, the year is 1479, and Thutmose III ascends to the throne of Egypt. Although power effectively shifts to Hatshepsut, according to the low chronology of the 18th dynasty. 1184 BC, it is the traditional date of the fall of Troy. Troy fell on this day. A moment of silence for Troy. In 1558, Mary Queen of Scots marries Dauphine of France, Francois, at the Notre Dame de Paris. How about that? Oh, let's see. The first newspaper in British colonial America, the Boston News-Letter, was published on this day in 1704. How about today, the very first newspaper in colonial America, British colonial America, 1704. It was the day that mass media and mind control was born in this country. Let's see. In 1877, the Russo-Turkish War, the Russian Empire declares war on the Ottoman Empire. That was the start of a really, really bloody period of wars, which would continue and escalate all the way up through the early 1900s, and then even beyond with World War II. Basically, from the 1870s, you get into World War I and the Crimean War, World War I, and then, of course, you have the Bolshevik Revolution. It's an incredibly bloody time in history. Oh, let's see. One of the world's greatest sharpshooters and drinkers, Annie Oakley, was hired by Nate Salisbury to be part of Buffalo Bill's Wild West. The first skyscraper in the United States opened on this day in 1913. You know what that building was? It's the Woolworth Building. And in 1914, this is pretty advanced. It is the date of the Frank-Hertz experiments, a pillar of quantum mechanics. It was presented to the German Physical Society on this day in 1914. In 1915, the arrest of 250 Armenian intellectuals and community leaders in Istanbul marks the beginning of the Armenian genocide. That's a really big deal. Nobody really talks about it. It's always swept under the dustbin of history, and the Armenians became a people without a country. Unless, of course, you now count Calabasas as that country. Let's see, 1916, Easter Rising. Irish rebels led by Patrick Pearse and James Connolly launch an uprising in Dublin against British rule and proclaim an Irish Republic. Let's see. It's a big day in Ernest Shackleton's life. 1916, again, the very same year. Ernest Shackleton and 5 men of the Imperial Transantarctic Expedition launch a lifeboat from uninhabited Elephant Island in the Southern Ocean to organize a rescue for the crew of the sunken Endurance. Okay, what else do we have? Bad day for Jehovah's Witnesses in 1933. Nazi Germany begins its persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses by shutting down the Watchtower Society office in Magdeburg. Some people think that Hitler really just hated one group of people. Nah, he was really had plenty of that to spread around. Let's see what else do we have here. Winston Churchill was knighted on this day, 1953. Oh boy, isn't that sweet? But Queen Elizabeth II, who's still around, alive and kicking. What else do we have? Here's a big pipe dream back in 1967. It's the Vietnam War. American General William Westmoreland says in a news conference that the enemy had gained support in the United States. That gives him hope that he can win politically that which he cannot win militarily. I have no idea what he's talking about there. What else? Anything else that's interesting? Not a whole lot. In 1996, in the United States, the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996 is passed into law. A lot of those laws, a lot of the anti-terror stuff came in when the Clintons were running the show. That's because people were waking up. That was definitely a period of awakening during that time. You know, you had people like Bill Cooper and Bo Gritz, and there was some real grassroots. And back then it was crude. You had micro transmitters, low watt AM stations, newsletters, faxes. It was nothing like today. Nothing. Like if you were in that world, which I was, you were getting strange stuff. And it was really compelling in a lot of ways. It was like, wow, look what I just found. Look at this. This is intense. This is great. It's mainstream now. Absolutely mainstream. And I swear, that underwear commercial that I was talking about with the briefs, have you seen that one? Where there's a guy on TV, he's an athlete, he's talking about how his briefs are breathing. And then there are guys watching him on TV. And then there are guys watching the guys on TV because they're burglars and they want to get in to the place. And there are guys in the van listening in on the burglars, watching the burglars. And then there's another group listening to the van, and then another group listening to the guys listening to the van. This is what I'm talking about. We've got the mainstreaming of all of this stuff. What about the Taco Bell commercials and the Balluminati? This is total revelation of the method hidden in plain sight. We're talking about the mainstreaming of truth. And it's not a bad thing. Again, it's not a bad thing. But what's going to be really interesting now, it's going to become, there's going to be a big pushback, right? Because, I mean, you look at what's happening with the whole gun thing, which has been planned for a while, right? And I think they're having to speed things up because the internet has accelerated this quantum awakening. It's like, people are waking up. We got to break up those guns. Let's go. Hustle, hustle, hustle. Who do we have? Who's half-baked right now? Ryan King? Perfect name. Push activate. All right, let's get into the chat room. What do we have? The DNC is suing Trump. That's right. Oh, Alice says, okay, here we go. Judy says, Robert, I do like your new music, by the way. I think the DNC is suing Trump, Russia, etc. for interfering. Alice says, Judy, Trump is not even mentioned in the lawsuit. It also opens the DNC to the discovery process. And maybe someone will finally get to analyze their servers. You mean the servers that they haven't bleached or drilled? Maury, my favorite university professor was Armenian by birth. In early life, he specialized in Russian history. The Armenian genocide was a really totally big deal. When I was in California, I used to be in the music business, and there was a music label that was an Armenian music label that I was connected to. So I spent some time around these people. And yeah, it's a really big deal. They got an entire culture, country completely wiped out. Absolutely. Just to complete my thoughts here on the subject of mass awakening, it's just keep your eye on what's going on, because the more people awaken, and the numbers are there. I don't think they're fudging the numbers. Like, I was watching briefly a video from X22, and he had Jordan Sather on, the young guy from Destroying the Illusion, and 220,000 views. 220,000 views. How about that? That's significant. And I think it's actually to be applauded. Again, I've got an asterisk. Let's just make sure we're not herded into another pen. But what we're seeing is that as more and more people begin to wake up and smell the coffee, which is happening, there's going to be an equal but opposite reaction towards that awakening. Whether it's more chaos, whether it's more derision, whether it's more satirization, more regulation, whatever it is, we're going to see both things happening simultaneously. And before I get out of here, I just wanted to talk about a date that I want to put on your calendar. I'm going to talk about this tonight with Randy and Emily over on Off Planet. And that is, it's not that far away. May 17th. That's when Mars enters Aquarius. And it squares Uranus and Taurus. That is fractious, because you're dealing with two fixed signs, Taurus and Aquarius. Mars is energy, it's action, it's will. Aquarius is radical, and it's right at that 0 point, so it's intense, correct? You remember the last time Mars was in Aquarius? Last time Mars was in Aquarius was when President Trump, Donald Trump, got elected. Mars is in Aquarius on election night. Now, it's not going to be at the same degree, because it was in the final degrees of Aquarius. So we're entering into a very interesting corridor. because it was 2 years ago that Mars was in Aquarius, right? 2-year cycle. So squaring up against Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius, in Taurus. This is going to be a very interesting time. And, it leads up to basically the 29th degree. We could even probably factor in 27, 28. So roughly 5-9 through 526. That big of a window. But it's that day at 0 Aquarius. That is the day that I'm looking at. The 17th of May. Mark that on your calendar. I think that day has a lot of inherent chaos, confrontation, conflict of the entrenched, the old, the new. I see it as kind of a spike point on the ephemeris. All right, let me get in here and just have a few more looks in the chat room and see what's happening, and we're going to get on out of here. Love the ask. Yet another pen, all right. Cool, Randy. Yeah, thanks, Maurice or Maury. All right, so if you ever want to become part of the chat room, listen to me live over on Spreaker. Of course, this broadcast does get uploaded and put onto YouTube. We're the 250 faithful people, and I thank each and every one of you that listens to me, generally has a good listen. And even if you don't like it, it's okay too. I'm kind of over that stuff. All right, let's get on out of here. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix.
You're listening to 15 Minutes of Flame with Robert Phoenix.